Hi there, and welcome to the Homestead Education Podcast. Do you have a homestead, farm, or just dream of a rural life? This is a show to help you and your kids grow your own food and grow as a person. I'm your host, Kody Hanner. I'm a homesteader, homeschool mom of six, and small town enthusiast. I was raised by an old school rancher and blessed by the grace of God to have been exposed to so much of what rural life has to offer. Join me every week to talk about homesteading, homeschooling, and growth with a homestead education. Hi, everyone, and welcome back. I just want to remind you that you can get all my homestead science books on my website for a new way of teaching agriculture to today's youth and aspiring homesteaders by focusing on small-scale farming and self-sufficiency. If you're a school or co-op and need invoicing, please feel free to reach out to me directly. So that was like, for those of you who watch this on video, like I did this weird little smile like I was ending something. So yeah, apparently I haven't had my coffee yet this morning. Um, I just want to say how happy I am to be back. I've kind of neglected you the last couple months. I know I did a couple episodes in there and apologize to you for neglecting you then. My travel season is really hard, and I've been trying to take a little bit of a turn in what we do on the podcast. I know everybody really enjoys the guests, and I'm going to keep having guests on because I enjoy them too. Like I can't come up with enough things to talk about unless I have someone to talk to. But I also want to take a little more time to focus on just me talking to you about the important topics. A chance for me to really break down actionable steps on how to do things with your kids and your homeschool and your homestead. I have a ton of homestead experience and I spend a lot of my time focusing on the curriculum because let's face it, that's my full-time job. But I started the homestead education podcast because I wanted an opportunity to teach, to tell, um, to answer the questions that so many people just don't know to ask. And what I mean by that is a lot of people have started homesteading, they've started homeschooling, um, even just a lot of moms are coming out of the workforce and being stay-at-home moms for the first time, or are young moms who were raised, as latchkey kids and didn't really have that, what, a stay-at-home mom would look like and like didn't have that modeling. And so there's a lot of things that I've experienced in my life and that I've researched on and observed of other people and that I feel like I have a lot to share. Um, that as you're coming into these new fields, I hate using the word ignorance, and I wish there was another word that I could use that didn't have such a negative connotation. But, the definition of ignorance is just basically not knowing. That doesn't mean you're dumb. It doesn't mean that you have done anything wrong. It literally means that you were never taught it. There are tons of things that I'm ignorant to because I've just never been exposed to it. And that's the kind of same thing with this is when there's things that you've never been exposed to, even if you're, been around farming your whole life. I mean, some of you have heard my story where I grew up basically in commercial agriculture. Like my dad had a cow calf operation. I did 4-H, I majored in agriculture, I worked in food plants. And then when I decided to start my homestead, when my husband got sick, I'd always had like I don't even know if you'd call it a farm. Like in adulthood, I always had a garden. I always had chickens. Maybe like the kids would raise an extra 4-H pig and we'd butcher it. We hunted. So I was never not involved or never not. I mean, I was probably a higher level homesteader before like homesteading, even like the modern homestead movement even really became a thing. Now we're much deeper into it, but there were so many things that I was absolutely ignorant to. Um, I mean, even just I had never worked around dairy very much, commercial or family cow style. I did a little bit in the school farm in college just because it was required. I did spend a summer on a dairy farm in high school as part of a 4-H exchange program, but I didn't really. I got to like tour the milking parlor. I worked in there like one day. And then the rest of it, we were just doing other things. And so then when we decided to get our own dairy cow, like I mean, I could barely give you any information on a commercial dairy operation, let alone a family cow where it's, raw milk, where it's, a single um like surge milker. I didn't know how to even convert that thought process. And so, like I said, I was ignorant to a lot of things, and I listened to some really great podcasts that cleared that up for me. And I realized that there's a lot that I could provide to you. So that was like a long-winded way of saying that I'm refocusing some of the things we're going to do on the podcast. And with that, it requires a little bit more of my time in a different way, because rather than, hopping on with a guest where we can just chat and like learn as we go, I kind of have to prepare some stuff for you. And the last couple months have been really hard. Um, it was the end of my travel season, which is pretty crazy. I hit up some pretty big conferences that I was a speaker at, both the Ozarks Homesteading Conference and at Homesteaders of America, which that was like, I mean, that's been on my vision board. I can actually reach my old vision board. I'm creating a new one right now, but this was my old vision board. It's kind of falling apart. Any of you who watch this on YouTube, so see right here, Homesteaders of America with the empty seats on the stage. And then here's a huge picture of Homesteaders of America. Now, I was talking in one of the smaller tents. That's because I'm talking about homeschool, and that's okay. I still got to speak at the conference that made me realize that I even wanted to be a public speaker. So huge, huge moment for me and for our business. And that's just had me really not even any bad stuff with it. It's just, it's taken a lot of my thought process to make sure everything was right. We released some new products, which I'm going to circle back to here in a little bit, but I had all the final steps of making sure those products were on my table at Homesteaders of America. I like to have a new product there every year, and these were some pretty amazing, fun ones. And I've been facing some of the trials of entrepreneurship. I don't know. There's kind of this term like solopreneur. And in a lot of ways, I consider myself a solopreneur because I am like the complete mastermind of the whole business. Now, on the flip side, my daughter helps so much. Oh my gosh, like this girl rocks it. I've started paying her now because she 100% deserves it. My business would not flow without her. She does my shipping, she packs me for conferences. There's just a lot of things that she does that just it just wouldn't flow the right way in the way that she set it up for me, like, and it's a lot of her setting it up. My husband, he deals with, a lot of like the shipping and running errands, so that I can just be focused on the business. um I do have an assistant. I've gone back and forth with an assistant. I've had full-time assistants, I've had part-time assistants. I mean, the business has grown to the point where there's no way I can do all of it myself. I mean, that's just accepting my own limitations. And that's really important in really anything you do, whether it's entrepreneurship or parenthood or any of it. You have to know your own limitations. And I do struggle with that. I am, what it's a Elise Myers, I think. She's an influencer on Instagram, really funny gal. But she actually says, I was like born with the gene that makes me believe that I can do anything. And that is 100% me. And I have to remind myself that I physically don't have the time to do everything. The things that I do, I usually excel at, or at least, absolutely fill the need. But I don't have time to do everything. And then I admit when I do mess up, because I do. I have ADHD. I'm busy. I'm a homeschool mom. We have 6 kids. I mean, I definitely I miss things once in a while, and I make mistakes. And the funny thing is, I could sell 1,000 products and everybody will love them except for one person, and they will find that mistake. And it, it's not even that I get an email of, hey, I noticed you had a typo, or there's a link that doesn't work because I use homeschool curriculum all the time and there are always errors. I mean, I was doing something with the good and the beautiful yesterday for my son's preschool, and it said, point to the first B on the right. And I kind of thought that sounds weird. Like the first one would be the one on the left because if you're reading left to right, but I'm like, okay, maybe that's the first one they want me to point to. And then they started to describe what I was supposed to do next, which was, point to the dot in the B and show your child how to trace the B with their finger. And I realized that it was the left B that they wanted me to point at, not the right one. So, I mean, and I'm not mad at Good and the Beautiful. I'm probably not even going to email them. I mean, I might just to be the nice reviewer rather than the mean reviewer so that they can maybe fix it and not get the mean reviewer because I don't want anyone else to have to do that. But I'm currently, I'm just going to be really honest and share with you guys. I'm currently dealing with a customer who's unhappy with her purchase. Um, a lot of her complaints are things like she can't stand the sound of my voice in my free course that I offer. Um, it's a free course, and if you don't like the sound of my voice, I'm really sorry. Um, I don't even know how to make this customer happy. And she has, started harassing me and my assistant via email. She has left really, really horrible, scathing reviews on some of my sales channels, which then put me in probation in some of my smaller sales channels because if you don't have a certain rating, then you can get in they like don't show your product or you can get like put on hold and stuff and that affects my bottom line. And obviously if I have a customer that's unhappy, I'll work with them. I've done so many things to make customers happy. And in this case, I mean, she's never asked for a refund. Really just wants me to basically admit that I'm a horrible person. And I'm just not really interested in doing that. So, sorry, now I'm having to deal with some issues there. So, that was like a huge look into my world. And this is coming at the same time that I found out that a trusted contractor for my business, who I was paying a lot of money to do something for me, did not do it. And I have been having to work close to 18-hour days to compensate for this not being done because there's a time frame with it. So yeah, it's been a real strain on me working 18-hour days while, dealing with a horrible review. Which usually a horrible review, like you get a bad review, like it happens. Like I've had great reviews, I've had bad reviews, I've had everywhere in between. I mean, it's a business owner thing. This review, like I said, is to the point of harassment. It's, emails and social media messages and, um, complaining on sales channels and things like that that are, highly affecting my business beyond, um, just like one bad review. So that's been really hard when my system's already down from working so many hours a day. My heart's already hurting because I'm not spending time with my family the way I want to. I didn't get to enjoy some of the things like speaking at Homesteaders of America the way I would have liked to because of this kind of heaviness that's going along with everything. And um, I was doing my hair to come in and start recording this podcast, and I have a sticky note on my mirror that says, like discomfort is your place for growth. And let's say I am incredibly uncomfortable right now. So my business should just be like exploding after this. So everybody send me your good thoughts and prayers and um we're going to see some amazing things coming. Now, on to like just more exciting things. Oh my gosh, like what a downer, but like I don't want you to think that I am not still going to be the driving force that I've always been. But I needed like I'm needing a moment to reflect and get caught up. And you're gonna start seeing that in these winter months when I'm not traveling like I do over the summer. So I've talked about it a couple times before. My new book, Raising Self-Sufficient Kids: An Honest Mom's Guide to Intentional Parenting. This is just a really raw story of um, my husband and I, being a blended family, dealing with different aged kids who were raised different ways, and coming to a way that we're just really happy with where our kids are at right now. And I have a lot of people come to me and ask how to get kids involved on the homestead. And that's where this book came from. And I'll admit there's only one chapter in here on actually having them get involved in the home on the homestead because it is not about them taking ownership in one aspect of your life. It's about having them take ownership in every aspect of your whole family's life to even get to the point of having them find joy and drive in anything, whether that's homesteading, going to college, starting their own business, whatever it is that they're going to do, they have to find that internally. And that's what this book is about. So it's a really awesome book. There's a lot of really actionable steps in there. So if you want to grab that, you can get it over on Amazon. I'll put the link in my show notes. It's available as a paperback or as a Kindle on Amazon. And then I do have it on my website too. So if you want a signed copy or if you're planning on buying something else from the website, you can just combine the order and I'll shoot them straight out to you. And I'll link all that in the show notes. Now, for my really exciting, the book's exciting. I've been working on that for a long time. But with Christmas coming up, I wanted to have a product that was just fun, like something that could go in everybody's stocking, um, that it was, a pretty inexpensive item that was just joy. Like I just needed joy. And so I came out with Homestead Trivia. It's the family game of sustainable living. And it is set up, it's like test your knowledge of food farming and traditional skills for all ages. So this is kind of this version is for all ages, really. There's questions ranging from, pretty basic stuff all the way to, advanced soil chemistry. There's also two cards just for little kids in here so that everybody can join in. I do have a kids version coming out. It's available for pre-order on my website. This one's available for pre-order too, which I have some in stock. So if you just order this one, I can ship it out. Those of you who are just listening, you're kind of missing out on some cool video right now, but that's okay because you're probably gonna hop right over and order your set and you don't need to see my video of it. But so it's set up, kind of a typical trivia game, and right here I have what is a crop? Farm products that are usually raised for a profit. So I mean there is a difference between um, just what you grow and the vernacular that's used for growing it for a profit. Um, Apparently I can't read backwards. List 3 fuel sources for home heating. We have wood, gas, and electric. Now, even though that sounds simple, there's a lot of people who have never lived outside of an area that they had to use anything other than like electric heat. Um, and so yeah, there's over 300 questions. Like I said, there's a kids version coming out soon. I do have a couple of kids cards in here. They're real fun. They have a little barn on them, and it's what is bread made out of? I have flour, and then I also have eggs, water, milk, yeast, or sourdough starter works too. Because I don't want the kids to feel like they got the answer wrong when they're understanding the concept. And that's the important part. I have a card in here that kind of goes over the rules of the game, which, you know, it's a trivia game. Pull the cards out and ask questions. But you can have some fun with it. You can roll a dice. There's 6 different categories. So you can roll the dice, 1 through 6. Um, you can do it, just, pull them out and play in the car. Or if you're playing against someone, you can play until one player reaches 5 cards. Each time like they win, they get to keep the card. Or for long play, you can play until all the cards in the deck have been collected by the players and count who has the most. Um, One thing I do say about playing with kids, even if you're using the adult cards, ask the question just the way I wrote it. Like, what building can be used for controlling the temperature and humidity of plants? Then say, what building do people grow plants in sometimes? And then the answer is greenhouse. For an adult, you probably wouldn't reword it, but for kids, like keep it educational and not so educational that it's not fun. So, anyways, I sold a ton of copies at HOA, or a ton of sets. We had some little trinkets with it. We had baggies and homemade dice that were color coded, but those are a lot to do. So that was just kind of a fun extra for people. Um, I sold, I think, 100 sets, and I had some really amazing people get the set and have been sharing it like crazy, like Ruth Ann Zimmerman. She's been sharing about it with a homesteading with the Zimmermans. So that's really exciting that people are having fun with it. So, for those of you that, are interested in buying this with any type of like state funding, it is secular, and it's educational. And I made sure that, I put that it is for educational reinforcement on here, specifically for those of you that think this would be a really great one to add to your homestead science for the year, or in the future. So yeah, like I said, I'll link it in the show notes. This set, the standard homestead trivia, is available now for shipping. Or you can pre-order the bundle, which is a little cheaper, and it'll have the kids set and you'll have it before Christmas. So super fun one to have. So now oh gosh, I'm still not ready. I'm going to talk about this a little bit more this week. Um, on social media, in my newsletters and stuff. But we're to the end of October, so it's time to start thinking about winter prep. And we sat down as a family. We do this every year, at least a couple times a year, usually fall and spring, maybe a little bit in between. And we just brain dump everything that needs to happen on the farm, like repairs that need to be done, advancements we want to make, where we want to invest money, where we want to make money, where we want to save money. And when I say we, this includes our teenagers, and I even encourage the younger kids to be at least nearby and part of the conversation. And we brained up everything that needs to be done, and then we kind of like divvy out whose responsibility it is. And that doesn't even mean like, with my husband and I, like we might split the list, but that doesn't mean we're actually out there doing every single thing on that list. It just falls under our responsibilities. So is that something we're going to supervise a kid while they do, that we're going to encourage one of our teens to take over the entire management of, which like my daughter's looking at taking over the social media management on our farm page, where her and I plan the social media for the month, and then she just does the posts each day. Um, our other son, we sell raw milk off the farm. He's taking the Raw Milk Institute course, and he's setting us up to make sure we have all of our sanitation like totally locked in. So there's a lot of different things that we encourage our kids to help with. And then we implement that for the next several months. Then we sit down and do this again to, look at what we want our summer to look like. What animals do we want to raise over the summer? Because even though we have our pig operation and sell our pork, and we're going to be selling our pork online really soon. So if you want to make sure you follow us, it's hannerhomestead.com. We have low input pork. We're not They are raised on pasture, but they're not fully pasture raised. They kind of are back and forth. We feed them a local feed that is technically non-GMO, but can't be labeled non-GMO because it's made from a byproduct. So there's a few little things that I like to just kind of point out with that we have really amazing pork. Like, it's so good because we run what are still considered heritage breeds. They haven't had the fat bred out of them, so their meat still marbles. And it looks like a beef steak. It is amazing. So we're going to be selling those online soon. And the prices are not going to be what you typically see with um, some of these farm fresh pork operations, because a lot of them, they're fully pasture raised, like coonies. Those take like 3 years or something to raise out. And I'm raising pigs in 6 months on grain, but it's good products. There's no corn, no soybean, um, clean animals. We do almost no injections or medications. On our pigs, we run a really clean herd. We only use medications when we have to. And a lot of times, if I know for sure which pig that was, either we'll butcher it for ourselves or I'll sell it to like a friend locally that I can be like, oh yeah, that one, got an abscess when it got castrated or something. And so we had to give it antibiotics. So yeah, now we're just selling that to a friend who doesn't mind. And we're not, giving antibiotics as a growth supplement. We're giving antibiotics to keep a healthy herd. So there's a huge difference, like using them when they're supposed to be. So yeah, you're not going to see the insane prices that come with artisan foods. You're going to see farm prices that are available to everyone. So that's going to be really exciting. So make sure you follow us over there. My daughter's going to be posting some awesome recipes, some fun photos of our farm, just kind of a chance for you to get to know that side of us. All right. So one of the exercises in my book for raising self-sufficient kids is to create a personal life resume for both you and your kids. One thing that I do throughout the whole book is that I really make sure that everything you're expecting your kids to do, that you're reflecting back on yourself and making sure that you're modeling that. Because that's a huge part of raising kids. You can't expect them to do something that you won't. So, anyways, it's similar to a job resume, but you take stock of some of your like relationship and interpersonal skills. Because when you're raising self-sufficient kids, the goal really is for them to eventually become self-sufficient adults. And with that, they need to get jobs. And here's something I found. I was on Facebook and I saw a reel making fun of gentle parenting, or actually making fun of like the boomers' view on central of gentle parenting. And I mean, I don't know. I don't kind of feed into that whole generational, the boomers, the millennials, the Generation X. I don't even know. I don't like being pigeonholed or stereotyped. But technically, like I land as like an early millennial. My husband's a Generation X. We kind of joke. I've heard it called the Oregon Trail generation, where we have a lot of traditional values, but we were the first ones to kind of go into the digital age. And so boomers were making fun of gentle parenting. And I'm going to say right now, I am not a gentle parent. I'm an intentional parent. Um, and everything I do with them, I have an intention for. And I've actually I have to be careful when I say intentional parenting because intentional parenting is about building relationships with your kids. And I'm sure that there are gentle parents that can call themselves intentional parents as well, because it's a different concept. It's not how you parent, it's what your end goal is with parenting. But the way I view it and the way I teach it in my book is basically you kind of like a little bit of choosing your battles. I'm not saying you let them get away with anything. I'm saying that you look at what the big picture is. So, one of the examples I use in my book is my autistic son. He's 15. Ooh, he turned 16 today. Happy birthday to the twins. If you're listening to this in the next 2 days, I'm also offering 16% off everything on the site with code SWEET16. So, he's messy. Like his workspace is always messy. Like we are constantly on him. But like my husband, he's like, my son will be deep in work and he'll come over and be like, why didn't you put away your plate when you were done? We let our homeschool kids eat at their tables while they're doing schoolwork and stuff. And he'll stop him mid lesson to deal with his plate. And when he already has attention issues, what is more important? Is it more important for him to finish his lesson with focus or to clean up the plate? You kind of have to like ask yourself that. So what I ended up doing, sorry, is I put a little trash can by his workspace. It makes it where, and I say plate, we usually keep paper plates in the house because, the kids are just eating a lot and stuff. So a lot of times it's a paper plate. He can just put it in the trash can. And then at the end of the day, he is still required to clean his entire workspace. I'm not letting it go. I'm just being more intentional about my purpose. So my purpose is that I want him to learn well and have a clean workspace. My purpose is not to make him have such a clean workspace that he's not able to learn well. So, I was watching this reel making fun of gentle parenting. And of course, I had to read the comments because, you know, I just do. And I came across a comment, it was a lot of people saying like gentle parenting's bad and what's wrong with our society is that people aren't gentle parents. And I've seen some stuff with gentle parenting that I I can understand where they're coming from with it, but I think it's misguided. And I also have seen some horrifically bratty children. So, but because it's kind of a new concept, it's really hard to see exactly what the results will be. I've heard a little bit that like, the hippie area raise their kids gentle. Um, but I grew up in an area that still has a lot of old school hippies, like north of San Francisco and stuff. And I've seen some of their kids, and I'll tell you right now, like, I don't know. Um, that's besides the point. We're moving on. Moving on. Um, the comment I read though that just really like red flagged for me was I just read an article in a financial magazine that said many companies will not be hiring new college grads next year because they don't know how to behave appropriately in the workplace, citing unprofessionalism, chronic lateness, inappropriate attire, lack of respect for deadlines, and foul language as the main reasons. These new parenting and educational resources are not address the new problems they are creating. They won't even acknowledge how they are handicapping these kids when they leave academia and enter the workforce. So I wanted to find that article and I couldn't find it, but I did in a few Google searches. I did come across an article from Newsweek, which it was from September 24th of 2024. So I mean, it's a fairly recent one. And it says the survey revealed that 1 in 6 businesses said they were hesitant to hire college graduates over concerns of how prepared they are for the work, as well as their communication skills and professionalism. And a whopping 6 in 10 employers had already fired college graduates who were hired in 2024. So that means most of them have been hired somewhere between, January and September, probably a lot of them between like May and September and had already been fired. Like, holy jeepers. I mean, that is absolutely insane. And so, like I said, I couldn't find the exact article. Based on the wording in this comment, I'm going to say that is like a direct, statement from the article or a very good paraphrase on it. I'm really big on good sources. So, um, and then, like I said, I found the article in Newsweek that kind of, summarized the same thing I was finding. So I am thinking that this is a thing that's actually happening. And I find this like insanely concerning. I have my chair, like it slides down, so I have to sit back up. Um, I find this really concerning because I have seen this myself. Um, the chronic lateness, inappropriate attire, lack of respect for deadlines. That's one of the reasons we pulled our kids out of public school. We had kids in junior high 8 years ago, and we were literally like, they would tell them, oh, yeah, as long as you turn in your assignment at some point, you can get full credit for it. Like, are you kidding me? They have to have some sort of respect for deadlines. And they said, well, we find the kids like it more when they get good grades as long as they turn something in. And I mean, that was also the quality of their work. They were just getting good grades as long as they turned something in, so they weren't upsetting these children. And I was flabbergasted. Like it almost felt like Twilight Zone. Um, because that's absolutely insane. I mean, there has to be some level of accountability and understanding deadlines. And, I've heard people say, like, well, then you teach that at home if you don't like what the school's teaching. Well, we were trying. I mean, I would tell our kids, like, I looked at your online thing. It says that your assignment is due Friday. So you need to make sure that you turn your assignment in. And they're like, oh, we can still go to our friend's house because, as long as we turn it in, we still get full credit. And I was like, no, no, that's not how it works. So, after arguing with our teenagers for a while, I'm like, fine, turn it in whenever. And their grades started, they would have like 10 missing assignments. And I'm like, you have to get caught up. Like, this is not okay. they'd go and turn in stuff, which I had seen them work on at the kitchen table, and it was not quality work. But we were testing not necessarily the system, but we were trying to be like, fine, if you won't follow our rules, then you can get the bad grade and the consequences that come with that. And they were turning them in like, 10 assignments the day before grades came out. They had like an F in the class, and all of a sudden grades come out and they have an A. And I'm like, how does that work? So I went to the school, and this is literally what I was told. That they don't like putting those pressures on kids. And I'm like, yeah, I'm racked with anxiety for a whole list of reasons, but I don't know that having a deadline ever gave me bad anxiety. Um, like the bad type of anxiety. Like I think there's positive anxiety. It's that it's sociological thing that back when we were still running from like saber-toothed tigers or whatever, like your body, it's like a fight or flight thing. Like I need to be a little bit more motivated to get away from this tiger, or I need to make sure that I store enough berries before winter hits or my whole tribe dies. um it's like a psychological thing that our bodies need that. Our brains need that for the proper chemicals. I mean, I don't know if, I guess I probably should have researched this because I totally just kind of pulled this one out of nowhere. But if we don't have a something to drive us, like our bodies just aren't wired to work that way. And we're probably not getting our proper dopamine, like of the job well done. Like, hey, I actually got enough berries to keep my family from dying over the winter. I feel good about that. Instead, it's like I didn't get enough berries to feed my family for the winter, but that's cool because the neighbors got enough berries and they're just going to give them to us. So, whatever. There's no like that, no dopamine hit of it feels good, and there's also no consequence of your family not making it through the winter. It's a little extreme, but that comes, people don't see, and I say people like kind of just big picture, people don't see how the small things in modern life and whole first world problems and that type of stuff, how those are direct comparisons to the way our bodies were designed. We were designed a certain way for a reason, and if we aren't meeting those, we don't, like, our brains just don't work right. um and it's causing an entire generation of people or kids, young adults, that can't get jobs, that can't, they um they aren't professional. They don't know how to send emails, the poor language. I've seen emails come in a professional setting that was using like um my goodness, I can't even think of the word for it, but like text language, like OMG, and instead of like you are, or you're like you are, or your as in like it belongs to you, I'm getting your, like you are the letters you are, not the words you are. I'm like, this is supposed to be a professional email that we're planning professional stuff, and you're sending me like text language. Like this doesn't work. That's not how. I'm fine if we're shooting text messages back and forth trying to get something accomplished, and that's the faster way for that to happen. But when we're going to professional email setting, like I feel like I need to see a professional email come through to me. And I'm just seeing it like happen like constantly. And at this point, I'm not even in the corporate world anymore. And I'm seeing a lot of this. And I just find it really disheartening. Another one, yeah, is the language and um the push to be accepting of, I don't even really want to say it, but like, sexual orientations and stuff, which where I'm kind of getting at with that is I don't go to work and talk about things that I do with my husband behind closed doors. I would also like it if the guy in the desk next to me did the same thing. That is not that I am not okay with him being gay. That's that's a whole nother conversation. If I am in a secular work situation, you can do whatever it is you want to do, but you don't need to tell me about it. And that's, and it's not even a don't ask, don't tell. Um, you can tell me that you're married to a guy. I mean, that's your business. But you are also not going to tell me that me being married to a guy makes me a bad person. And that's, I'm seeing a lot of that. Young people being like, well, because I identify this way, I'm going to dress this way. And sometimes the dress is inappropriate. The conversations that they have in regards to it and in a professional setting are inappropriate. And I think they're starting to see the consequences of that with 6 and 10 being fired in 6 months. I mean, that's a huge number. When I was graduating from college, like I admit I was older graduating. I'd already had some work experience under my belt, but most of the people that I was graduating with, they were great people. I would have recommended them for any job. In fact, I did write letters of recommendation for a lot of my friends coming out of college because I had worked an internship and out of call in the field I wanted to work in and was headhunted right out of college. And so I was able to say, like I was able to write recommendations for my friends under the heading of like, quality assurance manager at large company. And I had no worries about writing them letters because they were hardworking, articulate, professional people. Um, and I have a 19 and 21-year-old right now. One of them I probably would recommend for a job, and the other one I may not. And that just really comes down to their mindset in this, what they view as like, I mean, I've even heard like, boomer values. And I don't think that that's the case. I think that there's a level of professionalism that you're going to hear more complaining about from the boomer generation because they're more vocal about this. That does not mean that it is not important to still be conservative in the workplace. And when I say conservative, I'm not talking about political stuff. I'm talking about conservative attire, conservative language, and conservative in not taking risks in your professionalism and meeting deadlines and that type of stuff. Um, there's a lot of buzzwords that come with negative or positive connotations at this point that I think need to be readdressed as to what their actual definition means. So, I found an article on what employers actually want. So, 93% of employers want to see soft skills on resumes. Soft skills. Do we know what soft skills are? I That's one of the things that I have you do as one of your personal life skill resumes in my book because I think it's really important to understand what a soft skill is and how it fits into your life. Soft skills. So, on your resume, if you put that you can type, 50 words per minute and you can run QuickBooks and I don't know, you can run a forklift. Those are all like hard skills. A lot of times there's a certificate associated with it, or there was some sort of training or something, which you can get training on interpersonal skills and you can be like, oh, I have a certificate in, working, um, in as a management situations and improving workplace morale. Not saying that you can't get a certificate in those things. I'm just kind of to help you distinguish the two. Soft skills are more organization, timeliness, um, uh, motivation, those types of words that you need to consider. And that's who cares how fast you can type if you're not at work? I mean, it's just who cares how great your customer service is or, like how great you can run organized customer service if you're cussing at the customers. Even if you're not cussing the customers out, you're just using foul language with the customers, that is a huge turnoff for lots and lots of people. Um, I get it. We all have our moments. Like my husband's a veteran. He cusses like a sailor, literally. He wasn't a sailor, he was Army. But when he's a fireman and he works for my business or helps out with my business and stuff, he's not using that language in those settings because he has that level of professionalism. So, I have a list of, let me see here. I wrote it down because I knew I'd forget. It's actually 12 things that employers want. So we're just kind of run through them real quick. I might break them down a little bit. Um, One is influence. So the ability to motivate people, persuade, you might put on that resume as negotiated with suppliers for a 5% reduction. You know, within your family, I mean, that might be like able to motivate my kids to want to help me clean. If you are just standing in there yelling at them, like, everybody get up and help me clean, you probably don't have that influence on people. Like, you can't motivate them. And that's something to consider. Flexibility, the able to adapt, embrace, prioritize development, quick learner. You might word that as developed innovative digital marketing strategies that increased qualified leads by 10%. So yeah, on a job resume, like you need to be able to like move with the moment. And that's something that we're seeing big time with the younger generation, that there's no movability and no adaptability. Now, there's also much higher rate in autism, and other neurodivergent issues that, let's face it, make it harder for adaptability. But I have never seen any of the neurodivergences as an excuse for not being able to integrate with um, the workforce. I mean, I have an autistic son. I am extremely ADHD. Um, I have Tourette's. I have issues, and I've never, there's accommodations that can be made even at the workforce adult level. But I think that that's even maybe less of the issue, and more of the issue is entitlement. If you are entitled and think that everything should happen the way you want it to happen or the way you think it should happen, you are not going to be flexible enough to be in a workplace where things are changing constantly and expectations are changing constantly. The ability to just listen. Ooh, that's a huge one. Let's admit it, that's a huge one. You need to be teachable. You need to listen to what people have to say and have a conversation with them or be able to understand what they're wanting from you. Like if you have a boss tell you what to do and you struggle with that, you need to be writing it down. Um, and then, even go back to your desk and jot up an email. I really appreciated my time talking to you. Um, this is what I got that you want me to accomplish. Can you please confirm? And that's a really great way to keep communication clean. I do that in my business. I do that with my kids, like my autistic son. I make him either write down the list or repeat back to me what I need him to do because he does have, between auditory and processing issues. But what I'm doing is teaching him how to integrate and to advocate for himself. So really listening to someone takes more than just listening. It takes understanding and observation, knowing when to ask questions and give advice, and when to just be quiet and listen to every word. Yep. So teamwork, the ability to work efficiently with a team. That's a hard one. And as an entrepreneur and then an entrepreneur with a large family, this gets tested all the time. So I have to work in teams in a lot of ways that aren't people that have buy-in in my business or my thought process. Because I'm not hiring a team to work for me. Um, Within my business, I'm hiring like contractors and stuff to work for me. And they often don't have that buy-in for my business. Or rather than having a social media manager, I'm in a social media mastermind group where we support each other, give advice, post things and share each other's posts and that type of stuff. And I have to work with these people on a regular basis. I'm also even learning how to work with my husband. Um, in a marriage, like we're good, we're solid. As far as working together, I am entrepreneurial, I'm creative, I meet my own deadlines, so on and so forth. He was military, so he's very like, I meet the deadlines that I have to meet, and I don't meet the deadlines I don't want to meet. And I mean, it's just a very different mindset in how we deal with things. Um, Leadership, the ability to lead, influence, and guide others. Mentor, delegate, lead, manage. And that might be worded as developed and managed goals and objectives for the project. That's that organization. Manage sometimes can be translated to organization. Because like if I have a list of things to do, I need to sit down and manage my list. Management always isn't always just about people. It's sometimes it's about tasks and thought processes and even what's going on in your own head. Communication. It's kind of an obvious one, I think, but I mean, if you can't communicate, if you get mad when people are saying certain things to you, if you're not using appropriate language or professional language, that's a huge problem. So the ability to exchange ideas and information accurately. Presenting, negotiating, so the wording would be like facilitate and present monthly training to new hires. Yeah, if you can't tell the new hires what they need to do in the job, what good are you to your boss? Because now he or she is expecting these new hires to be capable of doing the required work, but what your boss relayed to you and then you relayed to the new hires, if that's not the same, that doesn't really work. So you need to be able to communicate that information effectively. Another example of in our household, like my husband has a very short memory from a TBI that he received in Iraq. That's a traumatic brain injury. So if I need him to, make our family phone calls, because sometimes, yeah, like he's a stay-at-home dad. He's just, technically disabled. I say technically, like he's not disabled in a wheelchair, but between his PTSD, TBI, the brain issues, he has a spinal stimulator in his back from getting blown up and that type of stuff. Like, yeah, he can't work, he can't do a lot of the things, his memory, he has issues. So he a lot of times handles our household stuff so that I can work. So but I can't say like, hey, the kids all need dentist appointments. Can you call and make those appointments? Like I have to actually say like, write down each of the kids, write down their birthdays. So he's not trying to think of it in the moment. Not that he doesn't know our kids' birthdays, but when he's on the phone with somebody and they ask that stuff, it kind of overwhelms him if he doesn't have all the information. So he has the kids' birth in, each of the kids, their birthdays, then I list what they need done. Like, is this just a cleaning or does one of them have a cavity? So to make sure that he's relaying all that information. And then I'll remind him, like, check the calendar or, you know, if they could all get in on Wednesday afternoons because that we have co-ops our homeschool co-op in the morning. So we're already in town. We live 45 minutes from town. So being able to combine stuff is really handy for us. So it's not that like I tell him every single thing to do, but I have those notes there for him so that it doesn't overwhelm him and ruin his day having to call and make dentist appointments. Analytical thinking, the ability to collect and process data related to a problem. Yeah, like all the kids' birthdays. But I mean, you need to be able to take information and then know what to do with it. I struggle with that with my autistic son a little bit. Like he's really smart. He's taking that raw milk institute course. He gets done with a class and he's all like, oh, we need to be, oh, they use like, an acid for, cleaning the milk tubes and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, should we use that acid? I don't know. Well, what acid is it? I don't know. Well, how do you use it? Like, is it safe to use? Can we use it in a small operation? I don't know. And so it's being able for him to take in that information and then be able to say to me, they use the acid because it breaks up the calcium buildup in the tubing. It is something that anybody can use. You can either order it online or we can get it from the feed store. You only use like a tablespoon and a whole bucket of water. So, I mean, it's not super caustic. And, it's only a few dollars more than the chlorine or the chlorine bleach that we currently use, but we're going to have better test results on our milk. Okay, worth it to me. And that's kind of where you have to be able to take that information and then regurgitate it. So I actually do that with my kids in their homeschool day every day. For example, the course that he's taking, he asked if he could take the course. So I just kind of integrated it into his homeschool day to make time for it. There's no assignments with it. It's watching videos. So I need him to be able to do something with that information. So I have him take notes. And then at the bottom, he has to either write a paragraph or a plan of what he's going to do with that information. But he has all the notes. So in case he's not really sure, I can review it and give him some pointers of what direction he should go with that, which is where those questions come from. I need you to answer these questions for me. And so we're practicing those skills on a regular basis, um, to make sure that he's capable of doing that. I kind of, and I noticed that like between him and my daughter, like I can tell her, hey, we're going to a conference this weekend. There's going to be two tables. We expect, 1,500 attendees. Um, and we're staying for 3 days. And she can pack all of our conference gear, make sure that we have the, right number of tablecloths, the right number she lets me know how many books I need to order based on the number of attendees, because we kind of we're pretty clear on how many we need based on the people. But she lets me know how many books we need to order. Like, so she takes inventory on what we have and then lets me know what I need to order from my supplier. Um, like I said, she makes sure we have the right number of swag. Like, if everybody at the conference were to come by, would we have enough swag, brochures to give everybody? So she just puts all that into place with minimal information. Where my son, he can take in all the information, but he doesn't know how to regurgitate it. And so I give him a little bit more detailed lists of what I need from him. Okay, so how to write effectively and professional emails. So, we kind of talked about that a little bit. But yeah, it's really important for your kids to understand that an email isn't a text message and it's not a DM or an instant message. It is a professional email that's between you and your employer. It could come down to that email is um, giving you the exact instructions on how to do your job. If you ever have issues in the workplace, that's your proof. I have been there before. I've also worked in a lot of food safety where I have to provide even like our emails as part of proof that we're handling things each day. So, um, like if we had two plants and I have to have proof of the sanitation logs for the second plant, those emails would come in with like the sanitation manager would be like, here's the sign-offs for everybody for the week. Here's the explanation of anything that wasn't done or that type of thing that I use that as proof in our sanitation logs to show inspectors that come into the plant. And if um somebody were to get sick and we had a recall or anything like that, that would be proof as to whether or not things were handled properly. Like, if it happened to be on the day that there was an exception, like what was that exception? Well, this piece of equipment wasn't cleaned because that whole piece of equipment was taken apart all day long. It was having maintenance done. So that one didn't even have any bearing on who got sick. The equipment that they got sick with was cleaned properly, so they weren't sick due to any negligence. I mean, that's huge. So you really need to make sure it's not as simple as it seems, especially depending on what line of work you're in. And a lot of times sanitation managers were not people with degrees and stuff, so I really had to communicate my expectations to them. Um, how to, sorry, like I said, I printed this out and then I want to talk about it. So, how to talk to people, peers, lower and upper level management. So, I mean, I think we've covered that one a lot as well. Um, yeah, if I'm sitting outside having a coffee break with some friends at work and I know their personalities and stuff, yeah, I'm probably going to talk a little bit more. I might talk about my spouse, um, negative, positive jokes, um, our kids. I might, use a cuss word, like, and that's okay. I know I know who are my friends in the workplace versus, talking to management positions and that type of stuff. I actually had an incident where I got in trouble at work one time. I was working in a very dark cold storage. It was a huge, huge warehouse. It was about 30 degrees in there. So like I had like hoodie on and a beanie and it's, summertime in California, So I had my beanie over my ears, trying to stay warm. I'm like looking at a piece of equipment, like trying to take notes. I think I was trying to get model numbers or something off of it. And I had somebody come in, it was a maintenance guy. He came in and decided to spook me. And I turned and was like, oh, you freaking bastard. Like, sorry for the language, but it scared me, and that was my reaction. Well, him being he's Hispanic and had low English. And so he went and looked up what that word meant, and it was that, your parents aren't married. And in his culture, that's a huge insult. And so I actually like I had to sit down with like human resources and stuff and explain that I was not insulting his parents, that I was spooked and that I apologize. I think he's a great guy. Like I'm sure his parents are great and everything was fine after that. But we just needed to sit down and have all that clarity involved in it, that I wasn't trying to use foul language with him, that it scared me. That was my reaction. Um, I used that word for no other reason than it was a reaction versus actually insulting his parents. So, I mean, that's a really good example of how, language can affect people. Um, how to recent topics in person and virtually. So, kind of how to just stop talking about things like, okay, we're done with this conversation. But do that in a professional manner, both like talking to someone and via email. How to navigate discussions with differing opinions. And that's people hear that and they just think about, how you're identifying or political stuff. And that's not that's not even what this is referring to, but that's where the problem lies. Is we are so divided right now as a country, and that's not regionally, that's everyone. There are some regions that lean one way or the other, but like sometimes in a workplace, you're going to have a variety. And if you disagree about how to launch a new product, people are then being like, they're either making it political, oh, they're a stupid liberal or they're a stupid conservative or they're a Trumper or whatever. And so that's why they want to do it that way and it's never going to work. Or people have become so comfortable with putting people down based on their opinions that you're like, oh, I think we should launch the product, on a Tuesday so people have enough time to have it for the weekend. And people are just like, no, like you're stupid and wrong. And you can't do that in a professional setting. You would be like, why do you think we should launch it on Tuesday so that people can buy it on the weekend? Well, so that, we launch by the time the ads go out, it's, possibly Wednesday. We send a reminder email on Thursday, and then they actually buy the product for the weekend. And, then the other person's like, oh, I was thinking let's just do it Thursday. So it's a short thing, but I see your point, like, but they don't give that opportunity for conversation. And the next one's how to set boundaries. And that's where like to set your limits. And that's we have to do it with our spouses, with our kids, in our jobs. You need to know when you can say like, I'm not capable of doing that. I'm not comfortable with this, and try to find a way to make it work. That doesn't mean you completely have to negotiate, but that's when you say like, I feel like this workload is too much, but I'm not willing to not meet it. Are you willing to pay me overtime on Saturday to meet this deadline? Or, and if they're like, no, I'm not, but I am willing to have somebody help you to get it done. Great. Like it's just, you have to figure out what those boundaries are. So I cited a lot of sources in this, but I really felt like I wanted to have the validation for the adults of the future that we have the opportunity to raise. I wanted you to hear some statistics. I wanted you to hear what other people are saying. And this information came out of financial magazines. Um, this isn't just homesteaders. This isn't just conservatives. This isn't just boomers. This isn't homeschoolers. This is out of financial magazines saying that the graduates that are coming out of college right now are unhireable. And I think that you do not want your children to be on that list. And I think that you want people who are going to be running our businesses and running our country and that type of stuff over the next second half of our lives to be able to send a professional email. I mean, there's so much involved with that. All right. If you have littles that are learning character and confidence right now, my good friend Roxy Kilmer has the cutest little children's book, Set on the Farm, about accepting who you are, called Be You. Roxy's a former Marine officer and has a homestead where she teaches classes to kids on doing farm chores. Yay, Roxy. So make sure you check out her Instagram at Simply Seated 2, like TOO. I'm going to link that in the show notes. And grab her book because it's super cute and it teaches really important things to kids. And just a reminder, if you want to grab my book on raising self-sufficient kids, it's available in a paperback or Kindle on Amazon or on my site if you want a signed copy while supplies last. I only have so many. And yeah, make sure to follow me on, Instagram and Facebook. My Facebook group, Homestead Science, which I think I'm going to be changing the name of it, but I'll be linking that. We're going to be doing some giveaways this next week. So make sure you hop over there and join that group as well. It was really great getting to catch up with everybody, and I hope you learned something and that you keep growing. Thank you for joining me today at the Homestead Education, and I hope that I have given you something to think about this week. To help others find me, please comment and leave a review on your favorite podcast player. You can also follow me on Facebook at the Homestead Education and Instagram at homestead_education. Do you have questions that you would like answered or just want to say hi? Please email me at hello@thehomesteadeducation.com. Until next time, keep growing.